Someday, Liz, I'll go back, said Private First Class Peter Robert Zanetta.
This is Michael Savage. We're celebrating the anniversary of the invasion of Normandy when Hitler was defeated. Let's listen to Ronald Reagan.
And her story by quoting her father, who promised that he would return to Normandy. She ended with a promise to her father, who died 8 years ago of cancer. I'm going there, Dad. And I'll see the beaches and the barricades and the monuments. I'll see the graves, and I'll put flowers there just like you wanted to do. I'll feel all the things you made me feel through your stories and your eyes. I'll never forget what you went through, Dad, nor will I let anyone else forget. And Dad, I'll always be proud. Through the words of his loving daughter, who is here with us today, a D-Day veteran has shown us the meaning of this day far better than any president can. It is enough for us to say about Private Zanetta and all the men of honor and courage who fought beside him 4 decades ago. We will always remember. We will always be proud. We will always be prepared, so we may be always free.
Welcome to the Savage Nation. That, of course, was the voice of America's greatest president, Ronald Reagan. Literally, when you listen to him, if you didn't, find yourself choking up, you're not a human being. You should probably join a local union or the Democrat Party. And Barack Obama, who has again ignored the greatest day in American history, when so many young men sacrificed their lives so that we can be free and I could talk with you on the radio, for example, and we could have an individual of such high caliber in the White House who spits in the face of the men who died that he could even be president. Of course, the big story to you, the average listener, is not D-Day. It's that the stock market is booming over the Walker victory in Wisconsin. Make no mistake about what I'm about to tell you. There have been several elections since the imposter was foisted upon us. There have been several elections when the American people were allowed to go to the polls and to say what they believe to be true, ever since the imposter was foisted upon us by George Soros and other forces that we don't even know. And in both cases, in virtually every case, as a matter of fact, the people have voted down the imposter and his policies. Make no mistake about it, the vermin in the media are tricking you, just as they tried to trick you yesterday, telling you that it was neck and neck in Wisconsin. And just as they covered the story up across America, they're covering up the fact that if the election were held today, as tepid as Romney is, he would beat Obama by at least 20 points. There's no question in my mind that this victory in Wisconsin spells the end of Obama's tyranny over the American people. That is, unless they can get enough illegal aliens to vote as many times as possible. The phone number here is 1-800-449-8255. My recommendation to Governor Romney is to get rid of your team that is killing you. Get rid of those idiots who are running your campaign. They ran McCain off the rails. They're going to run you off the rails. And learn something from Scott Walker. Learn something from Scott Walker. Learn that Scott Walker says it like it is. And stop mincing words, Romney. And stop acting like a wimp, Romney. And stop acting like a putz, Romney. I want you to listen to this for 1 minute, because one of the first things Walker said in his victory speech, which struck me last night as I was cooking spaghetti, is he talked about God and prayers. Something that we are all desperate to hear in this degenerate nation. Listen to clip 1.
Next, I particularly want to thank you for your prayers, because for the last year and a half, the thing that has sustained Tonette and I and Matt and Alex is people many times, people I've never met before, come off the line, come off the farm and say, Governor, we're praying for you and your family. I can't tell you what that means to me.
So here's a man who said that prayer sustained him, that the people's prayers sustained him. And on the other hand, we have an atheist for a president, so far as I could tell, Forget the Muslim part of it. He's just a narcissistic atheist. And then we have Romney, who's obviously a very religious man who's been intimidated by Wolf Blitzer and the other rats on the left into even mentioning his faith. No, Mr. Romney, it's time to mention your faith. Yes, Mr. Romney, it's time to get rid of those Brutuses who are running you off the rails with their tepid campaign. Mr. Romney, listen to me. Tear down that wall, Mr. Romney. Tear down that wall of those Republican advisors who are destroying your campaign. And go hire Scott Walker's campaign manager. Go hire Scott Walker's campaign directors and get rid of the Brutuses who are destroying you. 1-800-449-8255 is the phone number. MichaelSavage.com is the website. I'd like to point out something on my website that I don't see in many places. There are pictures from D-Day that I'd like you to look at. You want to see faces? They look like the boy next door. They weren't any different than the kid next door. They were just like the boy next door. And they went there and they were scared, and many of them didn't want to be there. Most of them didn't want to be there. They would rather have stayed home with their girlfriends. They would rather have hid under the cover or gone to the movies, but they couldn't. They had to go there, and when they did, they gave us our freedom. That's exactly the reality of what happened in World War II. And look at what we have in the White House today. A narcissist, a man who cavorts with the likes of rock and roll stars as opposed to war heroes on the anniversary of D-Day. It's enough to make you sick. But America knows the truth about Obama. They know he's an imposter. And the stock market knows that he's an imposter. And the stock market boomed today over the victory in Wisconsin. Why did the stock market boom? Because they saw light at the end of the tunnel created by the illegitimi non carborundum. The illegitimi who have ensnared us in their lies, coated us with their honey tongues, and deceived us with the media that they control. The stock market said there is hope that this imposter will be gone come November, and we can get back to being America again. We can get back to doing business again. We can get back to running the country again and regain our national pride. That's what's at stake, which is that everything's at stake. And the only way that Romney can win, as I can tell, is to stop playing the middle and start playing like Walker, who was anything but a firebrand. Remember, Scott Walker is a moderate, middle-of-the-road Republican. He is simply a fiscal conservative who risked everything for the sake of doing what was right for his state, and in this case, probably for the country. He risked everything for the sake of what was right for the state of Wisconsin. That's what he did it for. And he's the first governor in American history who has ever survived a recall election. And this, mind you, is in a Democrat-controlled state. This is in a state that has a long history of far-left activism. Wisconsin is a very left-wing state. And did you know that 4 out of 10 union members voted for Walker, for him to retain his job? 40% of people in unions knew what was good for the state. And this should be the beginning. The next one to go should be Jerry Brown in California. And the reason I say that this could happen is because 2 cities in the state of California yesterday revised the pensions of their cities because they knew they were going broke, and these were Democrat-controlled cities. The city of San Diego. The city of San Diego scaled back the pensions that the cops and firemen were taking out of the city because they were unsustainable. And even Democrats said we can't afford these pensions. We all like our cops, we all like our firemen, but we can't afford these kinds of gold-plated pensions. These are insane. Pushed down our throats by these unions. And, of course, this is what's going to happen. Voters in California back pension cuts for city workers, even in Democrat-controlled cities, just as Wisconsin residents voted yesterday not to recall Governor Scott Walker, who has become an enemy of bloated pensions. 2 California cities dealt blows of their own to organized labor. San Diego and San Jose, both Democrat controlled. Overwhelmingly in these Democrat cities of California, voters approved ballot initiatives designed to help balance ailing budgets by cutting retirement bennies for city workers. 70% of San Jose, California voters favored scaling back pensions. 70% in a Democrat-controlled city, to show you how out of touch Jerry Brown is with reality and to show you what liars the rats in the media are. The fact of the matter is, even Democrats recognize that the skyrocketing pension costs are killing them. That's right. And so as I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you know which way the wind is blowing, it's certainly not blowing in the way of Barack Obama and big unions. No way on earth is it blowing that way. These initiatives in California should provide models for other cities and for the state government where pension reform efforts have been stalled by Governor Brown. But the desire for pension reform in California and America is huge. That is why Scott Walker retained his seat for the first time in American history. 1-800-449-8255. It's a big day for America. And if you know which way the wind blows, you know it's blowing against the communist movement in America. I'll be right back.
Savage.
June 6, 1944, and the greatest armada in military history is assembled in England for an assault on Hitler's fortress Europe, all under the supreme command of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who has British General Montgomery at his side. The Allies have complete control of the air and cover the surface forces as Allied troops pile into landing craft. 500 warships lay down a withering barrage, and it's the beginning of the end for Hitler's
Greatest invasion in American human history, and Barack Hussein Obama is busy fundraising in San Francisco. Spits on the graves of the war dead. It's enough to make you weep, but just turn it into black rage. Turn it into rage inside your heart. Turn it into rage in your heart and remember who these communists really are and how they hate this country. Never mind the smiling faces. Never mind liars like Wolf Blitzer and the vermin on MSNBC. Remember what red-blooded Americans feel today, and remember that you are the majority. Never forget you are the majority and you hold the future of this nation in your hand. Never, ever forget the power you really have. Don't be deceived by the rats in the media. They are the worst in history. And you can justify it because that's who they are. But how do you explain a president of the United States spitting on all of those crosses in Normandy? How do you explain the man not paying any attention to all of the men who died so that an imposter like he could be president of the United States? It's enough to make you crazy and sick. But don't let it make you crazy and sick. Make it make you angry so that you go out and vote this man out of office. How's that for partisanship? Does that work for you? You see, this is a radio talk show. This is not the news. If you want the news, I don't even know where to tell you to go because there is no news. CNN is not the news. MSNBC is not the news. NBC, ABC, CBS, they all are biased. The only difference between Michael Savage and them is I tell you what I think. I don't try to make believe I'm neutral. I am not neutral. I am not neutral. This is one man's opinion. This is one man's opinion. That's what talk radio is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be the news because you all know that the news is not the news anymore, if it ever was. It's always been biased. It's always been biased. It's always been subjective, depending upon who's telling you the news. So I'm telling you how I see the news. The news is that the stock market boomed because Scott Walker beat big unions and beat Obama. That's number one. And number two, we know today definitively that Barack Obama hates the military and is unproud to be an American, just as Michelle Obama said the first day she was ever proud to be an American was when her husband was made president. That's who they still are. They're still far-left college radicals who hate this country and its values to their core. Make no mistake about all of the smile buttons and all of the vegetable gardens. They still hate the country, as far as I can tell.